And we're back.
And we're back. I feel like I laugh every time because we're always doing something like crazy just as the countdown's going to go live. Hello everyone.
Hi, welcome back.
Welcome back. This is episode 11.
Yeah, 11.
We're officially in the double digits.
And we finally picked people to be featured. So we're excited
Huge
to,
news. Yes. Huge news is that we didn't find people, but people found us more.
yes.
And we have, based on the numbers, so excited to announce that we're going to have Rebecca from Pre-Love You and we're going to have Dara from Sam and Leo's
Yes.
join us in the next few weeks. So be on the lookout for that because we're going to have some really cool conversations with them.
Yeah, we're so excited. And don't worry, we're still going to have other people. These are just the first two gals that are going to come on.
Yeah, I think if anything, we want to make this more of a normal, of a
Yes,
reoccurring thing.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, and I think it's always fascinating. You and I love talking about our own journeys, but I think it's fascinating to see what other people are doing
Yeah.
and also just learn from them. I feel like that's what we bonded on initially. It was like, okay, we're
100%.
learning from each other. And I think that's why we love the DVA community so much, is because you can just learn so much. You can learn a lot from a strong community. And I think we
Yeah.
tend to take that for granted.
And I also think something to note is that everybody's so open and like
Mhm.
true to themselves, but at the same time, like there's so much that people talk about in that community where you're actually able to learn because people open up so much about their own journeys and what they're going through and like the pivots they've had that I think that's what makes it such a success. Because I feel like sometimes when people act too like put together, like the business is
Too
perfect, it's
perfect. Too perfect.
no, like you gotta open up and talk about like and be raw, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I feel like every time that I talk to someone, it's funny because I feel like I went through a co-founder breakup 2 years ago now, and I felt definitely like embarrassed by it at first and felt like very much of like a failure. And then when I've talked to people about it and I actually admit of like, oh yeah, and I went through a co-founder breakup, which now I feel so much more comfortable talking about, the
Yeah.
amount of people that are like, oh, me too. And then got to talk
More
about it and
common.
bond about it. Yeah.
It's way more
It's
common. There's so much that happens with it, and I feel like we talked about this like last time you were here, but I was like, everybody's writing their book of life, and you have different chapters, and I feel like kind of going through any breakup, whether it's friend, co-founder, or like
relationship, like
relationship, like
romantic. Yeah.
they're part of a chapter in your book, but there's ways that that's only helping you build as a person, you know? And I think that in the startup ecosystem, it's so common, but it's not talked about as much. And I also think that it's like people grow in different directions, like people have different goals that end up happening, and like it happens. And like it's kind of
It's
what
so
you
common.
from it and learn from it and grow from it instead of just thinking about all the negative stuff that happened and harping on the bad instead of kind of switching your mindset. And I think Dom has like helped me a lot on this, kind of finding a way to like empower yourself as you go through something like that.
I agree because it can be, you can definitely like lose your way. I think I spiraled for like a month afterwards. And like, thank God I had people to lean on and say, like, especially from a work perspective, where not everyone, friends are incredible and such an awesome support system, but not everyone's going to understand what you're going through if you haven't done it yourself, much less if you're not an entrepreneur. Like, it can be such a lonely journey. And I'm so grateful that my dad's an entrepreneur because when like my mom or my sister don't understand what's happening, he instantly does. And he says it, he's like, they won't understand unless they've gone through it.
Yeah.
And but I spiraled for a month. Like Laurent would check in on me. I was like, "Hey, like how are you doing?" And I would feel like I had to have these business updates. He's like, "No, I don't care about that. Tilly, how are you doing? Like as a person, how are you doing? Like this is a rough thing to go through." And I
100.
think it was just so comforting. And I think it's only the more that I've been willing to share that with other people, the more that they've been willing to share their own stories. And that's when you start to realize, one, it's so common. Two, if you can get through it, you're already like beating the odds because the reason why most companies don't succeed is because of a like co-founder breakup. And it just does better. Like you now have more, I don't want to say integrity, but you have more, I guess a little bit of integrity, but trust in yourself to get through something really difficult because there are so many ups and downs of the founder journey. And that's just one of the many. And I feel like probably what we're going to be talking about today. Not
Yeah,
co-founder breakups, but like in general of just like the ups and downs of being a founder.
100%. And I also think that like, it's a journey where you're finding your own worth again. Like I did that. Like I feel like it took me a while to find my own worth and like figure out my own journey with things. And it was kind of like a little aha moment where I was like, you know what? Like okay, I actually like feel this empowerment coming through my body and like understanding my own worth of like what I could provide to founders too. And I think you brought up a really good point with like how Laurent was checking in on you. Like I feel like some founders when they go through things like this, they forget that their investors and their advisors and like mentors are people too. And that they are the people that are going to understand the most because they either have gone through it or know other companies that have gone through similar things, that leaning on those people is what really is going to help. Like I've leaned a lot on my mentors and I feel like that's been so helpful because being raw and being like, hey, like I'm going through all these pivots in my life and I this is what I want to do and this is kind of what I want to focus on, but sometimes my mind races so much that I don't know how to kind of land it. And I feel like having those conversations with them really helped me understand which lane I should be focusing on as like an individual and what I want the next couple of years to look like in my life. And also it provides a different perspective on how they see your skills and like your strong suits and where you thrive the most at. So then you're able to kind of focus in different directions that make the most sense, you know?
I think it's a really good point of really being able to just lean on the people that you trust and also then trusting yourself. And also, like to your point, being able to figure out what your next step is. Because I remember personally when the co-founder breakup happened, I was at a crossroads where it was okay, so what do I do? Do I completely just give up and quit the company and, okay, it was a good old try and
Yeah.
move on with my life? Or do I figure out a way to keep moving forward? And I was so close to just throwing in the towel and just being like, well, I tried for a few months and that's it. It didn't work out. I guess this is not meant to be and go back to corporate. But I had so many incredible advisors that were telling me to do the opposite. And we're like, what is the basic minimum that you need in order to move forward? And that's what actually inspired me to do the friends and family round. That's what led me of, okay, I did a friends and family round to just get basic minimum of what do I need to move forward, which allowed me to then fund a product team, fund a product manager because I'm non-technical. So, and not to say like I've coded before, but I by no means know how to fully code a platform. And I'm not going to pretend like I do. And it would take me twice as long and probably I wouldn't do it correctly anyway if I tried to. So the fact that I was able to set that up and then be able to launch, right? So it was like funding the product team, the product manager, the launch event, and some like initial marketing, that allowed me to keep moving forward. And it's funny because we've completely pivoted. So everything we did actually no longer exists, but it wasn't for nothing. We learned so much. But I think it took a lot of pushing myself, trusting myself, and honestly trusting the people around me that had done it before. Because
Yeah.
I was very, yeah, I was hesitant of like, well, you're telling me to do it, but do you know what you're talking about? And like, what if you're leading me down the wrong path? That's really scary. And so being able to say, okay, I'm going to trust myself and also trust the people that are telling me to do this and trust the process and kind of just move forward and live in the ambiguity where you don't know exactly if what you're doing is right, but you're just going to try it out. It just is, it can go a lot further than what you think.
Agree. And I think it goes back to like switching your mindset of it's not all about failing, right? And I mean, people say it like it's better to like as a founder fail quick so you could learn from that, right? But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, you're
Fail
learning,
fast.
right? So the power of the pivot, we talk about this, and like
Yeah.
also just fully understanding why you're doing things. And it's okay to have all these questions. Like, I feel like sometimes founders think that they have to have all these answers when in reality, like, you're kind of just figuring it out. Leaning on these advisors and these mentors, that's how it's gonna give you a better foundation. And I think for me personally, like as I was going through this transition, like a couple months back, I was trying to figure out like where I saw myself, what I wanted to do next in my
Yeah.
life. I didn't really understand my worth, to be honest. And like, that's like crazy that I'm saying it out loud because now I'm like, looking back, I wish I could have told my younger self, it's okay, trust the process, it'll be fine. Now I'm like, wow, I actually do know a lot of stuff about consumer that I never even realized. And I feel like it took me so long. And people that have been in the industry for so long, and like, I feel like you know a lot more. And I was like, wow, like, this is crazy to the point where I was like, I want to start helping founders. I want to work with founders. But then that comes around to figuring out boundary setting. And I feel like boundaries exist everywhere in life. But at the same time, I feel like I've been fighting this thing where it's like I want to help founders and I want to help them grow, but it's like understanding my time and where they're at and what I can give, but also trying to be strategic around it where it does become a win-win situation and it's not to any means like if I could, I would sit down and talk to founders all day and like solve issues for them, but it's like it could be a lot and it takes a lot of work and creativity behind it that I've been like fighting this for like the last couple of months trying to decide like okay, as I'm starting to work with founders, what does that mean? And also trying to meet them where they're at because
Totally.
I've been on the other side where I'm like I want to bring somebody in to help but like I don't have the funds to do that yet and stuff like that. So
How
it's
can you
also
get
like
creative to do it?
yes, and I'm like, I want to be able to have them lean on me and vice versa, where it becomes a conversation of like, where are you at? What is possible? And, and also kind of having those hard conversations with them. But at the same time, it's like going back to figuring out your own boundaries within work and personal life and just in general.
I think work-wise this week, we both have had a lot going on, but I would love to understand. I feel like that's like an understatement, but I would love to understand like how do you envision yourself working with founders? Like how did you start working with them? And also how do you see that relationship having been on that side and knowing how hard it can be to bring someone on board? How do you view that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I have found myself kind of understanding where I fall, right? In different ways. I think on helping founders, I think strategy wise and having like specific strategic like calls and sessions with them to fully understand. For example, there's a founder that I met who she has like a really large picture of her business operation side of things, but she really needs somebody to like help her focus in on divide them up into sections so there is growth, right? I think on the retail strategy side, I've understood the consumer side of the ins and outs and kind of creating a strategy behind retail expansion is something that founders have asked me too. And then obviously like on the event side, people are always curious how to make things happen.
But that's because you're so good at throwing events.
And then also, like, I think strategic partnerships. I think when people think of partnerships with brands, the concept has changed so much. And I think there's a lot of marketing opportunity that brands could take advantage of it. And you'd be surprised that at the amount of companies that would actually say yes. So I think for me, I've been trying to work on kind of putting different things in buckets and I think it's fully understanding where they're at and what industry they're working on. I would say consumer is my bread and butter, so like anything consumer I could really talk about for days. And I also think that like on having my family invest in companies, like fundraising readiness is such a big thing. I think
And you truly understand it.
there's a big part about like etiquette that goes behind it. Like when I talk to founders that are raising, I'm like, you can ask questions. Like you can ask investor questions. Like you should be asking them. They want you to ask questions. And I think like changing their mentality of like just seeing people as like dollar signs instead of like, who do I actually want to come on board that will actually help me scale? Right. So I think it's like a mindset shift when it comes to fundraising. So I think truly something I've been working on is understanding where the founder and the company is at and where I can see myself being helpful to them. So
Yeah.
every company and every founder is different because I also think every founder has a different personality. So like it's not a plug and play situation, which I think that's where the relationship building comes, but it's also fully understanding where that founder's at.
Yeah, that's such a good point of I think I've learned that also in a slightly different capacity where now start like having consulted now for about a year. It is drastically different But I think I've learned something similar about working with different founders, just in a different capacity, where as I've been consulting for almost a year now and working with different clients, everyone has such a different way of working and their expectations of what they want out of a consultant, no matter what you're doing. And so it's like making sure the deliverables are right, but also of how do you balance making your client happy, but also like as a founder myself, making myself happy of
Yeah.
what needs to get done, right? So like I know we've talked about this a lot, where for me it's really balancing of how do I get clients in the door, make sure that I'm doing a good job for them, but continue to build Vein, right? Because Vein right now is pre-revenue, which, we're hoping to make revenue soon, which will be great, but I still have to pay bills. I still have to like eat. And so, and I think a lot of founders are in this position, but no one really talks about it.
Nobody
No one
talks
ever
about
talks, no one ever talks about how hard it is to be running a business and starting the business while you're not making any money. So like, what do you do? People don't talk about this. They're always like, it's always very hush hush of either your parents are paying for it or, oh, well, I'm actually working 1,000 different jobs on the side, but you don't want to make it seem that way because you want to make it seem as though you're already successful.
or
Except
your
every
only focus is your business.
Right. Where it's like any business owner knows that that's not actually the way that it works. And I talked to my dad about this last night, and he was like, yeah, the first few years of starting a business, like it's not pretty and it's going to be rough. And you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices or figure out, how else are you going to be making money in the meantime. But I feel like the founder life has been glamorized so much that no one ever wants to admit the like dirt. I don't want to say dirty, but like the hard work
Yeah.
behind it.
I was just saying this to somebody. Like, I use Poppy all the time because it's a big consumer like
Yeah.
thing that happened. But everybody glamorized the fact that Poppy got acquired by Pepsi, right? Nobody glamorizes all the pivots that Allison had from the beginning, like
Right.
from where she started. And I think that as founders, just being involved in the founder ecosystem, we need to start glamorizing those pivots that companies
Mhm.
because that's where people learn. And like, it's so, people look at it and they're like, oh, so cool, so great. And I'm like, no, those are the cool parts of a business because it changes the whole thing. Like it does change the perspective, it changes the foundation, it changes the team structure. There's so much that goes behind it where that's the parts of the business that people need to analyze. And I'm not saying like hyper focus on stuff because every business is different, every founder is different, and your journey is going to be a hell of a lot different than the person next to you, right? But I think those are the things that we need to start talking about. And yes, obviously, everybody wants to get acquired, everybody wants an exit. But at the same time, it's like there's so much that goes into the business before that even happens.
Oh, 100%. And I think now more than ever, we're not living in the heyday of fundraising. We're like the 2019 to like I'd say 2021, where it was so easy. I have a friend. Yeah, investors were giving out money like crazy. I have a friend who raised 2 million off an Excel sheet. Like, are you kidding me? Pre-product. And you can never do that in today's market. So no, right. And so knowing that it takes longer to fundraise, knowing that it takes longer to hit revenue, what are the things that you can be doing to
Yeah.
continue staying alive, right? I think, and every founder knows this, the goal, especially at the beginning, is like stay alive, whether that means through pivots, whether that means through like working extra jobs so that you can pay your bills, whatever that actually consulting, like whatever that actually means. I wish people would just talk about it because it is the reality
It's so
of the
crazy.
world. And when you don't see someone talking about it, I'm like, okay, well then, like, what am I missing? And I always know when someone doesn't talk about it, I'm like, what am I missing? There's something that you're not talking about that's very obvious. And I would rather you just come clean about it. Right. And like, if that means, hey, you actually are privileged enough that you don't have to, work 1,000 different jobs because your family can afford that. That's great. But also then like say that it's the same way, same argument for like Nepo babies, where it's like, oh, I got here so easily. It's like, well, or, I worked so hard to get here. Yes, you did, but you also had a leg up that other people didn't have. And so, yeah, I've been asked like by two different founders of how, and like not my inner circle, but like just straight up of like, wait, so how are you paying rent? And I was like taken aback of like, wow, people are just asking me that. But it
Yeah.
was also like, okay, cool. I was always surprised though to find out the opposite, where I would ask them, I'm like, how are you doing it? And they're like, oh, well, my family just owns an apartment here. It's purely out of jealousy, where I'm like, damn, why couldn't I have had that situation? But, it is, I think, also validating to hear that, because then I know that I'm not crazy, that I'm not doing something wrong, because I feel like when everyone is just hush hush about it, it makes everyone feel like they're doing it wrong if it's not that.
And I also, there's nothing wrong with doing things like do what's best for you. You know, like people need to have that mentality. Like, obviously, like if people are very private about it, like that's fine. They could be private about things. But
Yes.
like, I think it's, we talked about this a couple weeks back. Like, the founder ecosystem is so glamorized, but there's things that aren't talked about. And I also think that instead of like acting and like putting up this front of like, hell yeah, like I'm perfect, my business is doing great. And then when like you actually look into the numbers, it's not. It's like, why lead with that when you could like talk to mentors and other people around you and being like, hey, I'm actually going through this rough time and like this is what's happening. Like when I was going through stuff with Two Fit that we were gonna switch co-packers and we decided to put things on pause because one, my sister-in-law just had a baby and like
Yeah.
I'm
It's a
sorry,
lot.
she already has her hands full. And then two, like switching co-packers is not just like picking up a box and putting it
Totally.
in.
It's a
No,
whole
it's
process.
a whole process. It's a whole thing. And like it was not an easy decision for us to make, but I also was like, I want to be financially smart. And like the way the business is, like the protein bar industry has changed. I'm gonna have to do a lot of like R&D. The person that knows about the R&D side just had a baby. So like I was like, let me take a step back. And then that's when I started kind of working backwards of like, where do I see myself?
Hmm.
What have I learned being in the consumer space, not just on like having Two Fit and the protein bar side, but like being involved in it for years with my family that like I could be a value of other people, right? But then it's fully kind of talking to founders and being like, I'll meet you where you can, but I have to set boundaries, right? Because like as you're working with people, and I also think that the founder mindset is also sometimes like I have to raise, I have to raise, I have to raise, like until I have the money, and it's like you're never really gonna like if that's your mindset,
Yeah, it's
like
never
you're
gonna work.
not always gonna have that money because you have to. And I think I've learned a lot through this with Dom, and it's like changing your mindset around money as a founder is what you're going to be attracting, right? And I think that as founders fundraise, having a very strategic like mindset coach, obviously like it's not a cheap thing to have, but like really having a practice and leaning into that that can help you, whether it's journaling or working with like a meditation coach or attending certain things that are offered in the community to reshape your mind behind money. As you fundraise, you're gonna be able to unlock different things
Mm.
throughout that journey instead of acting from like a scarcity mindset, thinking of it as like an abundant mindset. And I think, I mean, every person has their own journey with the wellness side of stuff, but I do think it's so important for founders to have some sort of practice of just meditation or mindfulness, you know?
No, and that's so important, especially as like the work-life balance. I mean, that's why we created this podcast.
Yeah,
Like for entrepreneurs, it doesn't really exist. Like there is no work-life balance. We're literally, we've said this multiple times on this podcast, where we're out at a party, we're out at a bar, and we're talking work. Because we're like, oh, I forgot that we have to do this. And then we start telling everyone of like, oh yeah, and this is what I do. It like it's such a strong part of our identity.
yeah,
And, it's interesting of, okay, we're talking about it, but also how do we build this balance in between? Like, it's hard. Like, for us, there is no hard line between our personal and our professional life. So, how do we, not to necessarily create a line, because I don't think that that's really possible, much less at the beginning, but how do you build like little supports, like little, like,
hmm,
what's it called? Like a little rivet that has like a little opening, like right here. Okay, this is time to actually take for myself. Okay, I'm gonna go to Othership and be able to like do a sauna, a meditation, a cold plunge, whatever that is, to just have time for yourself. Because I think this burnout mentality doesn't help at the end of the day, and it's not sustainable. And so, yes, our lives are all intertwined as founders, but we also have to take a step back and say, okay, there has to be a second for me to take care of myself.
yes. And I think that people always associate like taking care of their well-being with like, oh my gosh, that's so expensive. I have to spend so much money. But I feel like there's like little practices that people can start incorporating. And I think in the founder space, if like, for example, I think Kelly and Annie do such a great job with like the DVA community because there's wellness components that they incorporate for like networking stuff and things like that. So, and I think a big thing that what we're doing a workshop with Dom next week on like the
I'm excited for it. It's gonna be
around
great.
like abundance, right? But I think like having that is so important, and you could do it very lean, right? Like even just taking the time to go outside and like get fresh air, or
Mhm.
having a journaling practice. Like there's ways that you could have prompts be fed to you through different AIs, right? But like
Totally.
I think just little
There's
things
also
like that.
there's free meditation apps as well.
Yeah,
Like we'll do guided meditations with you. Insight
insight. Insight?
keeper.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think it's like a sound
Little
bath bowl.
bowl. Yeah. I got my dad on it as well. And it's great and it's free. Like, yes, you could pay for the pro if you want, but it was my way of entering into the meditation world without having to invest a lot and seeing if I liked it in the first place.
Yeah, no, I think that has been one of the biggest game changers I've had, like working with Dom and like her introducing me to like meditation. And granted, like I'm not perfect. Like I fall off of my practice like constantly. I think between travel, and I think this is another thing that founders think about, like we sometimes people are like, "Oh, my routine, my routine, my routine," but like some founders are like, "I don't know how to keep up with a routine." Because I think like traveling and meetings and this and every week kind of looks a little different. That I was working with Dom about this, about how, okay, your routine is going to look so different than other people's, but it's finding what makes sense in your
Mhm.
everyday practices that will help you prevent you going in a stage of like complete burnout. So I think finding one thing that works for yourself, and we're all human, you know, like we're going to fall off things. Some things like we're going to plateau on and we're going to have to find other things. But I think that's where community comes in, and that's where you could lean on. And I think being vulnerable with other founders about your own journey and what you're going through will really help you understand. Like, for example, Deanna from the Mindset Tapestry, like, she has an insane meditation practice. And I think that's one thing her and I have bonded about because it's so helpful. People may not like that stuff, and that's fine, but there's ways that you could fuel your mindset to help yourself in different capacities, you know?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Love.
Should I switch to
Wait,
my
that was a really good conversation.
Yeah, that was so good.
Wow.
Wow, I like feel empowered.
I know. I'm like, put us on a TED Talk.
They're my favorite two things. Say hi,
Wait,
say hi,
say hi, Kona.
hi, Lou.
No. We talk about maybe how feeling empowered not only in our work lives, but also in our personal lives.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, update. I'm like, not that anyone cares. Actually, did you see my dad's comment yesterday?
So unhinged.
I hadn't seen it and I called him and he was like, well, did you see my comment? I go, no. And he was like, well, you guys were asking of like who should come on the podcast. And I put Museum Boy. And I was like,
Could you imagine?
no, no, no. Well, Museum Boy is no longer in our circle. Such a nice guy.
Such a
Such a
great.
nice guy. He's a sweetheart, but just like not the right match, not the right time. I think we both just have a lot of things that we are separately focusing on. And at the end of the day, I will say that like it was one of the first times where I'm like, oh, I don't like he's the worst. Like I don't think that at all. I'm just like, okay, well, that was fun. That was nice. And there was nothing else there. And that's fine.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fine too. It's all about exploring and figuring out what makes the most sense, you know?
Exactly, exactly. So that's the update there. But we're talking to other boys. Anywho, so we're moving forward and living our life as we should, which is
I
great.
can be better about that.
Yeah, but we need guys that actually are like planning. They need to be planners.
Yes, yes. That's the thing. Like, I need somebody that plans because I can't be the one trying to like, it's like
No.
pulling teeth.
Well, also, like, you're not going to chase a boy. Like,
No,
that's
we don't
not
chase, we attract.
exactly. We don't chase, we attract. And also, I'll say this again, if a man can't plan a date, he can't plan a life.
That is true. That is true. I just think that I feel like now that I'm like kind of coming off this like crazy, like
Yeah. Travel
being in
schedule and
Miami for like a month and then like
yeah.
back to back events, I'm like, okay, now I'm more settled. I'm getting into the rhythm of like work and stuff that I'm like, okay, let's get back
Yeah.
out there.
Let's get back out there. Let's talk to the boys. I love that.
Hunting season.
It's hunting season. That is wild. But you're not wrong. Also, like, it's about, okay, so what we're talking about is hot girl summer.
Yeah, but like intentional, you know?
Hot, intentional girl summer.
Yeah, like I want to have fun and stuff, but I also want to date intentionally. I feel like the summer gets a little hard because everybody's like traveling all over. But like, I don't know. I think just putting myself out there.
Yeah. I think there's a lot going on. I think we have just been, I don't know about you, but I feel like, yes, I've been dating, but I have been so focused on work things in the last few weeks that I've made time for it, but I don't think like mentally I've been there as much.
Yeah.
You know, if I don't, especially like if I'm talking to someone that's not really making the effort on the other end, then it's like, what am I doing? Like, I don't need to be wasting my time here.
Yeah, I agree. I think something that I feel like has been helpful as I've been dating is kind of like what we talked about work, like finding my worth in
Yes.
like career wise. I feel like that's helped me understand my own worth and like what I kind of want and who I want to be with as I continue to date.
Well, I 100% agree. I feel like as I've entered my 30s, I'm so much more clear on it. And I know what I want and also the types of partners. And I look to my friends that I have incredible partners. I'm like, oh, that's what I want, like versus that just need a hot guy that's fun. Like that is not like, yeah, I want a hot guy that's fun, but also that's like the bare minimum. I want so much more than that.
Yeah.
And that's
I
what I'm
do the
realizing.
same. Like I feel also I see some of my friends with partners, them being founders or entering the founder space and their partner being in a completely finance roles or like investment banking and helping them at like build. I'm like, that's the support, that's what we want. We want somebody and like a partner that will cheer you on as you're building, as you're scaling, your number one fan for what it is. And half the time they don't really understand what's going on, but
You don't need
at least
to. It's
they
just more
don't need
being
to.
there.
It's like the support.
Yeah, I agree. And I think just understanding what you're doing. My ex-boyfriend didn't even understand what I remember him asking me questions. I was like, so you literally have never even like checked us out, like online, like you've never read a thing because you wouldn't be asking these questions. Where it just, I think people don't realize that as founders, it's so tough already. So like showing any type of effort, any type of support really goes a long way.
Yeah. And I also think that we touched on this earlier, how it can get so lonely as you're building that really having that support and having that partner that will be there and show up is so crucial. And I feel like that's one thing that as I've been dating and like putting myself out there more, I don't want just somebody that's just there. I would actually be supportive.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think it's like we're at an age where the part, like obviously you and I love being with people, we love going out, but like in a very different way now, where it's okay, I want to have those intentional conversations. I want to meet people intentionally. I want to have depth. Again, we'll talk about it. Depth.
Depth.
And
Depth is
it's
important.
depth is important. And I think, it can come, like to your point, it can show up in so many different ways, that level of depth, where it doesn't need to be the professional side, but personally, okay, how can you show up for me in my life? Especially as founders, our business takes up so much of our personal life and it becomes so much of our identity. So it's like, it's not just a 9 to 5 where like, I don't care what I do for work. And so you don't need to care what I do for work. Like, oh, it's boring. I've asked people like, oh, what are you doing? They're like, it's boring. Don't worry about it. I don't think I would ever respond that way. I've ever responded that way. Even when I was in corporate, I loved what I did. So, but that's just like the difference in personalities and I think difference in how much we care about what we build. So we need
Yeah.
someone that cares. They don't need to care. I mean, it would be great if they cared as much, but like I need someone who cares enough,
Yeah,
to be
100%.
there for me.
I was catching up with a childhood friend. She's been in Bali traveling and she's been building a business. And we were both kind of catching up on like what building looks like to her in such a different space and like a different country and stuff like that, while also wanting to find a partner. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, how is it? And she's, I feel like it's figuring out a balance, but at the same time, like being very intentional.
Yeah.
And one of something she said that like made sense because she's in such a small city. She was like, if I see them once and like great and we'll talk, but if we don't talk the first time and then I see them again, that's when I give them my information because she's in such a transit city too where people come and go that I've been trying to be more intentional about who's going to stay a little bit more permanent. And I was like, that's a good way to put it. I mean, granted in New York, people do come and go, but like It's just tension behind the way that you approach dating and putting yourself out there.
Yeah, which I think that makes sense. It's funny because I'm like, I definitely want to be more intentional, but like, I also think of, okay, well, how am I meeting people? Laurent literally is like, why are you on any dating apps? Like, get off dating apps. And I'm like, well, then how am I supposed to meet people? He's like, you go out into the world, Vanessa. Like, can you go get involved with something? I'm like, okay, you're not wrong. Like, maybe I should go do like padel or do pickleball, but it's just a little harder nowadays, especially when I'm working from home. So it's hard. I'm working from home, which even though actually my mom's friend Marili, that you know, since I was in Key Biscayne the other day with the Pipa team, my mom was like, oh, we could have called Marili and you could have gone to like the yacht club and worked out of there. And I was like, well, I'm already leaving Key Biscayne. Like, it's fine next time. And Marili was like, oh, I have an open office, like an open office and like desk in her office. She's like, you can come like whenever you want. So my mom was like, you should go at least like twice a week. And you go to Brickell and you have a place to like be outside the house. I was like, that would.
I think that's nice, like kind of getting out of your bubble. I think that's important too. And so many, both on the career work side, but
Mhm.
also on the personal side.
Personal.
And I think that's why sometimes like I have to get out of working from home constantly. I also get fueled creatively being around
Mhm.
other people, and just changing up your work environment sometimes can be so helpful, but you never know who you're going to meet too,
I know.
truly. You can meet
You really
somebody
never know.
online for coffee, or you can meet somebody like through a friend. So I think
You
that
know,
would be nice.
growing up, I used to tell people, I think it was like in high school, I was like, I'm convinced I'm going to meet someone just in a coffee shop waiting in line for coffee. I don't know why. Like, I had this vision. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Might still
Start going
happen.
down all the coffee shop, like coffee shop per week.
Like, I only hang out at coffee shops. That's it. No, you never know. It could be. I think I'm proud of us for getting out of our comfort zone. I'm proud of us for really talking about what matters this episode.
I know. There's a lot of depth.
There was a lot of depth
The
here.
word of the year is depth.
Yes. Did you say word of the year or word of here?
The year.
Yes,
The year.
the year. Word of
It's
the
like
year is depth. I agree. I didn't even tell people. We got a response from Apple, guys. We got a response from Apple and they didn't straight out reject us, which is amazing.
like
They told us there was just like some things that we needed to edit essentially. It was like account deletion, like some security stuff, which makes sense. And then we have to film a video of like the app doing it and like not resubmit through the whole process, but just email it to the person so they can like verify that all the things they've asked us to update are updated. So crossing my fingers, I think we're going to be live soon. I'm very excited.
they gave you specific things, which I think is so good. So
Yes,
then you guys go in and
just fix it.
do the thing, and then I think you should be fine. Because if there was really a problem, they would have given you like a longer explanation and not given you a solution that you need.
Totally.
I feel like sometimes when there's a bigger problem, they kind of are just like, oh, you know,
Totally, totally. And so, well, that's what happened the first time. They were like, nope, you're not a good app. And we're like, what? They were like, you're spam. And so I'm really excited. We have our launch plan after meeting with people this week, which was incredible. And then one of my interns and I just did a huge brainstorm yesterday on like, okay, how can we further build out the course and like the partnership with Pipa? And like, I want to do all the
your
heavy
office
lifting.
is cool, isn't
Their
it?
office is great. It's
For
awesome.
content, amazing.
Uh-huh. And so it was interesting because we have an entire launch plan set. And so I think I know we've talked a lot about partnerships, but I think, as we're strategizing our partnerships for Vane, it's how do we do most of the heavy lifting for our partners? Like at this point in time, yes, we're bringing something to the table, but they're bringing something more. And so it's saying, okay, the fact that they're allowing us to use their brand, the fact that they're wanting to partner with us, incredible. How then can I do as much as possible? So Ariana and I, one of the interns, we are just doing all of the heavy lifting of like building out the entire course, building out like, okay, this is exactly all of the copy that is going to be part of it. And you guys just have to look at it and review. And we're doing the same thing for Matt. And I think that makes a really big difference as a partner and
Yeah.
hopefully wants them, like entices partners to want to work with us because it's only upside for them and it's not a heavy lift.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I think it's going to be great and we'll see how it goes.
I've been using their products so much. Like I love them.
Really?
But their sunscreen is so nice. It's so
Really? I
helpful.
need to try it.
Yeah.
Well, my
But
entire
like
skin is breaking out right now. Like I have cover up on, but I have a huge
it
breakout
has
here,
been.
here, here, here.
I'm
I think
sure
I
it's
think I'm
something
gonna
that,
start tracking my skin.
thank God you have vein.
Thank God I have vein. No, I literally thought about it this morning. I was like, I think I'm just gonna do like, hey, my skin is breaking out and I need to better understand why. So I'm gonna start tracking it, like track my skin with me.
Yeah, you should. So, well,
Well,
make
guys,
sure to share with like 5 to 10.
guys, as always, make sure to share with all your friends. Follow us on our socials and on Spotify, and we'll see you guys next week where we'll have our first ever founder guest. Amazing.
Yay, I'm excited.
Until then, bye guys.
Okay.